The crypto market just sold off hard overnight, but what caused it? And are we about to pump this week now? Plus, what are these new Binance Labs projects that are taking off, and why do we need to pay attention to them? This is your Altcoin Buzz News. Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Cody, and if you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when our latest content. Follow us on Twitter, altcoinbuzz.io, and as always, is not financial advice, and wish the best of luck in your crypto ventures. Also, make sure to join us for our X Spaces Tuesday to Friday at 9 a.m. EST, link down below. All right, good morning, guys. We are finally getting the retest on the daily time frame. This is exactly what we were looking for. It came down perfectly into the area we've been looking for. It only took us about a week to get here, but we finally did. We sold off. Now this is a high time frame daily retest. We want to see this area hold, so we're bidding around this area between 112,000 and 113,000. This is the perfect area. It even came down here just a little bit lower, and so this to me is a great setup. This is what we've been waiting for. Right now, I'd be looking for a trade back up towards the new all-time highs, towards 123,000 as we go into next week when we have, or sorry, next month when we possibly have another rate cut in October, and then maybe another one later in December this year. Potentially two more rate cuts this year, which is also very bullish last quarter of the year. So I do think we go towards new all-time highs as long as we don't break back down below these levels. So what I'd want to see is I really want to see us hold above here. And I don't want to see us go down below $109,000. So I put my stop probably somewhere down here below these wicks, because if we continue down lower here, then we're going to be breaking structure and it's not going to be looking good. So we don't want to see Bitcoin just continue to fall back down and continue back down under here. Now, I would be watching for it today at New York Open, because it is possible we sell off a little bit more, but then we eventually come back and reclaim this level and then continue higher. That's what I'm looking for. Or I'm hoping also that New York Open just kind of pumps this up higher and we continue higher from here. But this is the area that we have been waiting for a long period of time, and we finally get this retest that we've been waiting for. And so this is the area I'm pretty much looking for right now. You could also be a little bit more safe and put your stops below here, because really if we break down below $108,000, we've fully changed this market structure, and we are continuing lower on the high time frames, back down probably towards $100,000, which we really don't want to see. So now we have Crypto Rover saying a big week incoming. Tuesday we have Powell's speech and services and manufacturing PMI. Thursday we have US GDP quarter 2 and initial jobless claims. And Friday we have core PCE price index. Seems like there's always macro news every single week these days. Then we also have Ash Crypto saying breaking a total of $220 billion has been wiped out from the crypto market in the last 24 hours. So all the leverage pretty much that has been built up from FOMC and people positioning last week when we had this rate cut, people leveraged up like crazy. All this leverage got wiped out finally over the weekend. And that's also part of the reason why I think this is a good area to be bidding, because the leverage has been wiped out and we are potentially due for a pump higher now that all the late longs are basically gone. We also have Mario saying Bitcoin dropped under 114,000 as the hype wears off. Bitcoin slid to 114,000, really lower now, after FOMC buzz faded, with Ethereum, XRP, and Solana also taking hits. And I'll say the market vibe is nervous optimism, which is definitely true. Long-term holders aren't dumping, but short-term traders are itching for action. Bitcoin bulls say the next breakout won't come until Bitcoin clears 124K. Until then, it's just crickets and cautious side eyes. And at the same time, Metaplanet just bought another 5,419 Bitcoin for $632 million. And we also have Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, who says Bitcoin is going to $1 million.
There's a couple of big tailwinds now, which lead me to think that there's a good chance Bitcoin could be at $1 million per coin, by 2030 or so. And that's partly it's the regulatory clarity that's emerging. I mentioned the Genius Act, and now with market structure legislation, hopefully getting close, that could be a major moment. We also saw the United States of America now has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So if the United States government is going to begin holding Bitcoin, I think that's going to be a massive driver of demand, and the rest of the G20 countries will probably follow suit. And then the last thing I'd say is that we saw recently the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs by a number of different firms, and Coinbase is actually powering 80% of the custody for those that are out there. But we're seeing a ton of institutional money continue to flow into Bitcoin now that these ETFs are live. So there's a lot of positive tailwinds for Bitcoin, and I think that there's never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoin ever made in the world, and lots of pools of capital still haven't gotten access to it. So that tells me this thing has a long way to run.
And then moving on to what seems to be the theme of the day, which is Binance Labs project, which was then rebranded to YZI Labs, which is essentially CZ's Binance projects that he's invested in. And so we have here crypto miners saying YZI Labs deepens holdings in Ethena Labs. YZI Labs has expanded its position in Ethena Labs, backing the protocol behind USDE, now the third largest and fastest growing stablecoin. The renewed support fuels Ethena's next growth phase, wider USDE adoption across centralized exchanges and DeFi, expansion on BNB chain with new money markets and integrations, and development of USDTB, a fiat-backed stablecoin pursuing Genius compliance, as well as launch of Convergence, an institutional settlement layer built with Securitize and BlackRock's tokenized partners. YZI Labs, formerly Binance Labs, was among the earliest backers of Ethena, supporting its synthetic dollar model from inception. And then we also have Not Telling saying it looks like YZI Labs or Binance Lab investments are pumping hard. Binance is setting up their portfolio to be the biggest gainers as we enter the historically bullish Q4. BB, a YZI Labs investment, is benefiting tremendously. I still don't see anyone mentioning it as everyone is distracted by Aster. It shows me we're probably going up higher. And Aster is also a Binance Labs project, which we're going to get to in a second. And so BounceBit is what BB is. BounceBit is now a number 3 protocol by TVL, fees and revenue on DeFi Llama. We're aiming for number 1 enabled with Prime and Franklin Templeton. Revenue fuels ongoing BB buybacks. So we have the buyback meta going on for BounceBit. We have Ethena, and then we also have Aster, which is the latest and greatest YZI Labs project. And so before we get to Aster, which has been the talk of the whole weekend, let's go over ENA, which I'm not liking too much right here. I think it had its time. I think the kind of attention is switching to other things like Aster and these other tokens. And so while I don't like ENA as a trade, this is what I'd want to see. So we had this sweep on a daily time frame. We had a sweep of these highs, and it's almost like a double top before going down. So I don't like that because usually when we have these double tops here on Ethena, it tends to retrace a lot of the gains. So I'm not entering anything here, but what I would like to see if we wanted to re-enter a position is I'd like to see it go sideways like this, have a breakout and then a retest as a higher high. And then I'd enter something like that on ENA, wherever this might happen. I'd look for this kind of, setup going on. But that's where I'd be entering. But I have a feeling it's possible it could continue a little bit lower, maybe take out some of these stops down here below 51 cents. So I'm not looking to take any positions on ENA, but this is what I would be looking for if I was to re-enter and it was to hold up strong. Then we have a BB, which I actually have never really looked into other than today. And it actually looks great. This is what we talk about a lot, where we have this downtrend right here. Then we have accumulation. And then once the accumulation happens, we have this breakout. And so we have this breakout, and this is exactly where we are right now on BB. So I actually really like this as a setup. We've broken out of this long-term area of accumulation. I can see it's going at the very least back here towards, 27.5 cents to somewhere around 31.5 cents. So we've broken out above here, above this level. Now I'd like to see around New York Open, if we get any kind of consolidation, this is probably a pretty good trade. You could put stops below this wick here, or even if you want to be safe, below this wick down here. And it's still about a 2.5 to 3R. But I really like this as a trade. This is pretty much what we look for, this rounding bottom, a breakout. And now that it's Binance Labs, YZI Labs kind of token, which is getting all the attention right now with CZ and Aster. Now that it's getting attention, this is almost like a beta play to Aster as a another token in that same kind of ecosystem. So I do expect this to probably retest these levels pretty soon, and I'll be watching at New York Open. And this is probably a trade I would be willing to take as well, because this just looks perfect. So that is BB and that is ENA. But now moving on to Aster, which is the perp dex of the weekend. So starting off, we have CZ started the biggest perp dex narrative. With Binance, they launched Aster, aiming to crush hype. After analyzing hidden files, I was shocked. So here's insider info and why Aster is the next 100x. So we talked about this last week, and I'm not one of those channels to say, "Oh, we talked about this. Did you fade me?" But we talked about this when it got into around $750 million market cap, and we just happened to get lucky that we were looking at it pretty much at the bottom when it was at 40 cents, and so it's pretty much been up only since then, which is great. And so it happened to work out with this one, but it's pretty funny that I just happened to be doing the news last week when it was at the exact bottom right before it took off. But anyway, we have Clark saying the story of Aster didn't start in 2025. Its beginning was in 2021 with Apollo X, a DEX that tried to combine centralized exchange speed and DeFi security. It developed inside the BNB ecosystem and became a mature product. However, it never managed to break into the top of the market. And then everything started with Asteris in 2024. It focused on yield, stablecoins, and CDeFi products. The goal was to attract institutional funds through high returns and secure infrastructure. The two projects had different goals, but one thing united them: their link to Binance. And then at the end of 2024, the merger was announced. Apollo X brought the trading engine and the audience. Aster added products and capital, and behind the merger was YZI Labs, the new name of Binance Labs, and the strategy was guided personally by CZ. And then on September 17th, the Aster token was launched with more than 704 million coins airdropped, and the price skyrocketed. In just 4 days, the growth reached 1,800%, and the number of users exceeded 350,000. The CZ effect showed in full force. Pump was expected. And CZ made everything public. He tweeted praising Aster and his quiet, successful launch, and market exploded. In one post, he noted that Aster became the largest BSC USDT holder after Binance. This is the first time that CZ supported a token outside of BNB, so why did he do it? So he's only talked about BNB and Bitcoin really over time. Investments from Binance Labs. Initially behind the merger was YZI Labs, formerly Binance Labs. The support from the largest centralized exchange and CZ's mentorship turned the project into a powerful push towards success. The only investor is Binance, and now it's CZ's pocket project. So you can see here, in the seed round, we have only YZI Labs, which is heavily influenced by CZ. So essentially, it's CZ's own Hyperliquid, which is essentially the narrative we're going on right now. But also, this story is about Hyperliquid. Its metrics impress with an $8.9 billion of daily volume, zero gas, and instant trades. Although Aster has a higher leverage at 1001x and deeper TVL in scale and speed, Hyperliquid remains dominant. But now Aster is in the basket of risky assets that triggered massive retail FOMO. It has backing, technology, and a strong narrative, but serious bears stand in the way. To overtake Hyperliquid, it will require huge effort, but will it succeed? So that is what's been going on with Aster so far, and that's pretty much the whole narrative behind Aster as well. We also have Crash here saying, when CZ, worth $80 billion and counting, is purposely buying 4 BNB worth of Aster, knowing everyone will notice this, how do you fade that? The ultimate endorsement and backing, I think I've said enough. So essentially, CZ bought 4 BNB worth over the weekend, which is coincidentally also worth $4,000. And so someone who's worth $80 billion doesn't need to only buy $4,000 worth of a token that's his own token. And so he's showing people that this is, worth backing, and he knows everyone is watching him. So you can see CZ's old wallet bought Aster. He bought 4 BNB worth around $4,100 worth of Aster over the weekend. And then we also have Jake saying, CZ talks about why decentralized exchanges will be bigger than centralized exchanges in the future. He owns the #1 centralized exchange in the world, and he's building the #1 DEX in the world. And this was an interview from a couple months ago, actually, so this isn't recent.
I've said this many times. In the future, DEX is going to be bigger than CEX, and we want to invest heavily in those areas. Yeah, we want to invest in the things that will disrupt our business.
How are you? Are you already in the process of doing that?
Oh yeah. We invested in multiple DEX perps, etc.
And then lastly, for Aster, we have Crash explains why Aster's first realistic target is half of Hype's market cap, predicting an 8x move that could push the token to around $7.
The very first, super obvious target is it's going to get to at least half of Hype. There's not a question if that happens, it's going to happen. And so Hyperliquid right now is at 18.7 billion circulating market cap. To get to half of Hyperliquid market cap, we're about 8x away. And that would put us around $7. I think $7 is extremely likely. Why? Once again, guys, I'm just going based off of half of Hyperliquid. I'm just going based on my logic. Hey, Hyperliquid's at 18 billion. We were going to hit half of that. It makes sense to me. If it makes sense to you, that's probably what you will think the minimum target is. But the thing is, it has an advantage over Hyperliquid, a big one, which is the dark pool. And 2, it has the Binance behind.
So when this interview actually came out, Hype's market cap was around $18 billion, but it's actually lower now. It's around $16.4 billion between the market sell-off and Aster taking a lot of attention. So $7 was around half of Hyperliquid's market cap, but now it's actually lower. It's now around $5.50. So still big numbers, but basically he's targeting half of Hyperliquid's market cap, which you can see here. Half of Hyperliquid's market cap would be around $5.25. But I do expect there's going to be a lot of heavy selling around that psychological 4, which is Binance and CZ's number, 4 FUD kind of a number, CZ's favorite number. So I do expect there will be selling around $4. But also half of Hyperliquid's market cap is around $5.25 as of right now. If Hype wants to keep dying like it has been in the past day, it is possible that the market cap goes down. But those are essentially his targets right now. If we are talking about the actual true value of Hyperliquid in terms of its total market cap. Now, overall, Aster looks pretty good. It's up 10% on the day when everything is down, which you can see. You can see everything's down. At least 5 5, 6, 10% on the day. I do like it. I know it's forming a base here. CZ even just tweeted that, these dips are for forming bases and a foundation. So he's essentially saying this is good for Aster. You need to build a foundation and a level of support from which we can continue higher. So I think this is going to go much higher. It's very hard to do TA on something that is very new. But I do like the fact that, we had a sell-off yesterday on Aster, which, after this huge run-up, it's, to be expected. But I do like that we had the sell-off yesterday on Aster before the market sold off. And then as the market sold off, this only went up. So it's one of the stronger coins right now. Definitely hard to do a little bit of TA on it right now. It's just kind of, you have to believe in the fundamentals of this. And I do like it. And I do think we go towards at least $4. I don't know how soon. It might take a month, might take 2 months. But I do think we are heading towards there. And I know that CZ wants to have the #1 DEX. I mean, we see how much volume that Hyperliquid is taking from Binance. And Binance doesn't want to watch Hyperliquid take all of their business. So I know they'll be promoting this like crazy. And the best thing that they can do, the best marketing for a project is price going up. So if price continues to go up, it is the best marketing for this. So I don't think that they'll let the price completely die. And I think they'll keep pumping this like crazy over the coming months, taking away a lot of Hyperliquid's market share, which we're actually about to get into right now as well. We have Look on Chain who says Arthur Hayes just sold a 96,000 hype worth $5.1 million. He bought a month ago, making $823,000. But during his speech at the WebEx Summit on August 25th, he predicted a 126x upside for hype, but is now out with less than 20% gain. So why did he do that? And so then the Maelstrom Fund, which is Crypto Hayes' family office, wrote this on why they sold their hype. So he said, Hyperliquid has been on an epic run. Its ecosystem is booming, volumes at all-time highs, and the USDH bidding war, one of the sexiest beauty contests in crypto right now. But with the crown comes a sword of Damocles. Hype is about to face its first true test. Starting on November 29th, 237.8 million hype will begin vesting linearly over 24 months. At $50 per token, that's $11.9 billion in team unlocks, nearly $500 million notional hitting the market every month. The problem, buybacks at current levels can only absorb 17%. That leaves $410 million a month supply overhang. Has the market price in the sheer scale of these unlocks? Now put yourself in the shoes of a Hyperliquid dev. You've worked insanely hard for years, a life-changing sum in tokens and starting to vest. It's one click away. What would you do? Can the digital asset treasuries save the day? With Sonnet, one of the largest crypto DATs ever, is expected to close in Q4 2025. It's raised $583 million in hype tokens and $305 million in cash. However, even Sonnet plus the other smaller hype DATs all combined are just a drop in the bucket compared to the impending hype unlocks. And he also says you don't eat the crypto establishment's lunch and walk away unchallenged. Business's war and the half-life of most crypto products has historically been short. Winners attract a swarm of vampire attacks. Competition is intensifying from both tier 1 exchanges as well as new contenders like Lighter.xyz, which is a Maelstrom portfolio company. CZ is also pushing Aster 2 months before unlocks. Probably not a coincidence. So CZ launching this right now is not a coincidence. He knows that Hyperliquid, which is about to go through huge unlocks, is about to have big selling pressure going on, especially with Hyperliquid devs who are finally getting their tokens vested after seeing it hit $50 after running up from basically $2 when it first came out. So as Hyperliquid has huge selling pressure over the coming months, I do think CZ will continue to pump Aster in order to take that narrative away from them and show that, hey, Hyperliquid is selling off because of all these, devs and all the vesting contracts. Why not just come to Aster where CZ owns like 95% of the supply and he doesn't need more money. He already has $80 billion. And so he wants to make this the strongest project there is in order to have both the #1 centralized exchange being Binance and the #1 decentralized exchange being Aster. So I do think Aster is the kind of rotational play going on right now. Is it possible that the selling has been priced in? Yeah, it's possible. But, once we start to see these in a couple months in November, I do think we'll see a bigger sell-off. So maybe we continue higher until then. But also, I have to say there's a lot of even though we sold off today, there's still a lot of stops to be taken down here. So this is that trend line I was talking about a while ago. And there's a lot of stop losses below each of these levels right here. And when the levels are very close like this, it makes it easy to do a liquidation cascade, especially in crypto, because you can easily push the price down and take all these out and then continue higher because you've now filled all your bids down through these levels. So there's a lot of money sitting right here. I'd be very cautious of entering any positions right here. What I'd want to see is I'd want to see us fully reclaim this level around here and then hold above here before heading higher. But I do think going into these big token unlocks coming in November, and probably Aster being pushed like crazy to go up with the Binance cartel, I do think we'll see more rotations from Hyperliquid profit taking going into Aster and other perp dexes as kind of the main narrative going on right now. So that's Hyperliquid, that's Aster, and all of Binance's projects. And lastly for today, we have Circle partners with Space and Time to power smart contracts. So this partnership with Space and Time is a major milestone for Circle. The idea is ease the creation of blockchain applications with speed and security. Circle enables developers to integrate USDC with ZK co-processing, making it easier to build and scale smart contracts in Web3. Space and Time isn't just another blockchain. Microsoft's M12 and Circle Ventures backed it and is designing it for ZK-proven data. Its core technology is proof of SQL, which is the first sub-second ZK coprocessor. It authenticates massive volumes of data in real time, and developers can input this validated information directly into smart contracts. It opens the door for advanced DeFi tools, on-chain gaming, and other complex blockchain innovations. It's all about making Web3 more reliable. And with Circle's USDC active on Space and Time, developers now have a stable and trusted way to pay for ZK workloads, and USDC is famous for maintaining a stable value. Space and Time automatically exchanges USDC payments for the native token, SXT, and this smooth process keeps everything running within the network, saving developers extra steps. So that is a Space and Time and a Circle, and that is the video for today, guys. We had this big sell-off today, right into our level of support, right into the area that we wanted to bid across different altcoins. And so I do like this area. Again, we're gonna have to see what happens at New York Open because they tend to, flush things. But I will say, if we do go lower, I think that's probably pretty bullish because usually it reverses around New York Open. So if at New York Open we go lower, I do think it is a higher probability that we then head higher soon after. So I do like this area. I'm going to be watching at New York Open for altcoins, everything. This is a great area to be looking for as we go higher into the next couple months with more rate cuts potentially. So that is the video for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow.